Welcome to Cultivating Careers, a podcast for women growing through seasons of career change. I am your host, Coach Flo. Here, we share honest stories, practical insight, and we create a safe space to grow because careers, like people, grow in seasons. Today's guest is Dr. Erica Prentice-Pierre, a former senior manager at a special purpose state enterprise who transitioned her career to an adjunct lecturer position at a local tertiary level institution. She is also a freelance academic editor. She has lectured on the topics of sociology and research methods at the undergraduate level for more than 15 years. And she earned her doctorate in business administration from the University of Liverpool in November 2020. Today, Dr. Erica would share with us how she transformed her career from apprehensive to assertive. Her story is a powerful example of what happens when you give yourself permission to bloom differently. By the end of this episode, you will walk away knowing exactly how to navigate career change with confidence. Welcome, Dr. Erica, to
Thank you very
Cultivating Careers
much.
podcast.
Thank you very much, Florence, for inviting me to your podcast.
Great. Let's start at the beginning. Who were you before this career transition?
Florence, before this career transition, I was a senior manager at a special purpose state enterprise, and I worked at that state enterprise for more than 15 years. It was a state enterprise involved in land management, and I was the manager of one of the units in that particular state enterprise. So that's who I was before I transitioned.
Okay, and what was the moment or something specific that said, something has to change?
I think the moment came when I got word that I would be graduating with my doctorate. And I recall going into the office of the vice president that I was reporting to at that particular point in time with my letter of resignation in hand. And as you can imagine, he tried to convince me to change my mind, but my mind was already made up. And I knew that the minute that my doctorate would have been conferred on me, it was time for me to make my exit from that organization. So that was the moment that really drove me to make that critical decision.
That definitely lands with what you said or how we described your transition at the start, assertive, because that definitely required assertiveness to step away from a position which seems that it was profitable, fulfilling in some way. What belief or fear made this stage harder than expected?
To be honest, Florence, there wasn't any fear or anything to me that made the stage harder than expected. Because, as you indicated in your introduction, I have been in academia for a very long time. I love academia. I love writing. I love researching. So that particular transition, it really was not as difficult as I would have anticipated.
Okay, that's good to know. But looking back, were there any, if at all, parts of your transition story that you underestimated or perhaps you overlooked?
I had a plan, and as indicated, my transition, it was very strategic because I had a plan. I was very intentional about what I wanted to do because I had come to a point in my career where I felt that I was not being challenged enough. I could have probably done my portfolio by rote so that the challenge was no longer there. And I felt that I wanted to do something that was a little different and something where I would have the ability to control my time even better. So that the 9 to 5 routine, it got to me after a while. And I, as I indicated, had intentionally decided that I am going to transition. So it was not an ad hoc decision at all. It was intentional, it was specific, and I planned it that way.
Great. I love a lady with a plan. Yes, plans are absolutely necessary. Definitely. How does the saying go? Proper planning prevents poor performance. So definitely having a plan is a great thing. Now, if you have Christian values, we all know the scripture which says that man plans, God laughs. So let's get into the messy middle. Was there any part that was hard in letting go of that old professional identity?
I would say no, because I think that I brought my identity into my new career. So that in terms of letting go, the answer is no, because I have been a career public officer. So that identity, those values that I would have created as a public officer, those values of accountability, of responsibility, those were the same identities that I took across to my new career. So in terms of letting go of anything that was old, I did not have that challenge at all.
All right, I love that. No, I really do. It sounds like you knew who you were and you said, this is how I show up, and I'm going to show up in the same way. It's just a different space.
Correct.
Great. But I'm sure the day-to-day activities or responsibilities were different. So were there any specific tools or any specific shifts in your schedule that you had to make in order to be successful in this new role?
Actually, time now I can manage it better. Most of my classes are online classes, so I do have that flexibility. There is also a requirement for face-to-face intervention with my students so that as indicated, I like that flexibility. It's not 9 to 5, it's flexible. And when I am required to go in face-to-face, it's excellent because actually I much prefer face-to-face interactions with my students as opposed to just looking at some square boxes at times with or without a picture. So what I like is that ability to manage my time better. And as indicated, ever so often I do freelance academic editing, so I'm able to control that time as well and to plan out all of my activities.
Okay, great. And if you had to name one habit or one mindset shift that assisted you in really solidifying yourself in this new professional identity, what would that be?
I think the mindset shift would be the ability to be flexible. To be flexible in the sense that for years I've been in that 9 to 5 routine. So that shift in terms of being flexible, I embraced it. I embraced that ability, as indicated, to be able to control my time, to control my preparation, and also how I present myself to my students. So the shift was I had to be even more flexible now as opposed to being rigid in a 9 to 5 or in space based on my previous employer.
Okay, great. So we navigated that change. We were assertive, we resigned, we embraced this new identity, and we took some of the same skills and attributes that you would have had success with within a professional setting into this new career as a lecturer and a freelance academic editor. Now, let's step into the after. So we're fully into this new realm of freelancing, adjunct lecturing. What surprised you the most about life on the other side of that career change?
What surprised me, and I guess it's a good surprise, what surprised me is the way in which I was able to smoothly transition into this new profession. I thought that it would have been a bit more challenging, that I would have had situations where I may have reflected that the decision that I made may not have been the best decision for me. But in terms of my ability to transition and to settle, I think that may have been surprising for me because as you may be aware, sometimes when people transition careers and it is not well planned, there are lots of things and sometimes there are regrets. I can say to you, I do not have any regrets from where I sit because I would have ensured in terms of all of my financial arrangements that those arrangements were in place in order to be able to support me through that transition.
I like that because you mentioned that you had a plan. And I know that a lot of persons are scared of career change because they tell themselves that a 9 to 5 is something that is sure. At the end of the month, I'm going to get that salary. Whereas freelance work, it is more itinerant. It is open to way more change. As you say, there is the benefits in terms of flexibility, but some people really cannot get comfortable with the lack of surety that on the 30th of every month there would
Yes.
be a deposit there. So speak to those persons who are perhaps concerned about making that leap because they are fearful of, my gosh, what will happen if
Yeah, I would say to those persons who are fearful to sit down, think it through, and ensure that if you decide to transition, that you have the skills, you have the knowledge, you have the competencies in order to transition where you want to be. I think it is also important to understand the space, do a bit of research into the space where you want to transition. Because let's face it, you would have competitors in that space. So therefore, you would need to understand the space, understand the competitors, understand what you are bringing to the table when you get to that space. Because if you transition in the absence of understanding the space, in the absence of doing your own research, then you would definitely have regrets in terms of that leap that you would have taken.
of that understanding what you bring to the table in that new space? Love it. Now, you mentioned that your old job as a senior manager, you could have done it by rote. So, what part of your identity now feels truer than
The part of my identity that feels truer is that part of me where I always loved academia from growing up. And I think it was instilled in us, my siblings and I, by our parents. And my parents always told us, get an education. And as the last child of 6 children, I think I took it to the limit. My father especially always told us, get an education. And I just remembered it. I always remember his words. And I said, yes, this is what he has advised. And I am going to ensure that I'm going to put my head fully into academia and gain mastery over that particular. I do still have a long way to go in terms of my academic career, but what I do, I'm always looking for short courses, and that's another thing as well. I'm always doing short courses in terms of enhancing my skills, my competencies. And I can share with you, Florence, an area that I'm really, really interested in is the use of AI in education. It's an area that is very interesting. It's an area where anyone who is in academia now needs to understand the implications of AI use in education. So, as indicated, it was planted in me by my parents, and I just think I needed to take it to the limit.
I can't wait to see what you share with us on that particular topic, AI in education. Now, as a senior manager, I'm sure, and probably too now, maybe you sit on interview panels that assist with hiring persons or perhaps giving persons feedback on their interviewing process. From a hiring manager's perspective, what signals confidence and readiness for that career change? Because you did allude to a career changer, a career transitioner being competent. So, what do you think signals that confidence?
I think what signals the confidence is that person's sense of readiness for the transition. I also think that what signals the Readiness is the recognition that the person has transferable skills that they would be able to bring to the table. So they must be able to demonstrate those skills to a hiring manager. Because if I'm sitting on a panel and I am interviewing someone, I want to be confident that this person is ready for that particular portfolio. And how do you demonstrate readiness? To me, you demonstrate readiness in terms of being able to convince that hiring manager that you are the best person in the world for that particular job.
Great. Thank you for that. And while we're talking about interview panels and readiness, are there any mistakes that you have observed that candidates make when making that new transition and repositioning themselves?
I think sometimes the mistakes that I see, and I could also speak to my sitting on interview panels with my previous employer. Sometimes persons do not properly research the organization where they are thinking that this will be my future employer. It's important to research that organization because it's rather awkward if you are coming to an interview and an interviewer were to ask you, tell me something about this organization where you want to become an employee, and that interviewee is unable to speak to what that organization is all about. And I can share with you a story, Florence, the organization that I left. I remember I always had an interest in that organization. And everything that I saw about that organization in the media, in the newspaper, I actually had a folder about that organization. And this is a true story. I had a folder about that organization. And when I went to the interview, I was able to answer the questions. And I think the reason why I landed the job is because I had a lot of knowledge about the organization, what it was doing, what was the vision of the organization, what was the mission, where that organization wanted to go in terms of diversifying the country away from the oil and gas sector. And I think because I had done so much research in the organization and because of my ability to respond, I landed that job. So that my advice, and as indicated to what I see in candidates, research the organization that you're going to or would you would like to be your employer and demonstrate your understanding of what that organization is all about. That is the gap that needs to be closed.
Sure that you stood out among all the other candidates because I can't imagine someone sitting, being interviewed, and they're speaking to things that you would tell yourself, well, how does she know that? Because you paid attention. I really, really love that. I am enjoying this conversation so much, but we're going to get towards the end with some rapid fire conversation. Question,
Okay.
sorry. So it's time for garden shots. Quick answers only.
Okay.
One skill every midlife career changer must cultivate.
Critical thinking.
I love that. All right. One thing you wish you'd stop doing sooner.
I would say procrastination.
Thief of time. Your career in one word before and after.
I would say before it was a bit varied, it was a bit hectic, and after it is now adventurous.
Adventurous?
Adventurous, yes, because I'm still exploring options as we speak.
Right. Okay. One mantra that carried you through.
I would think that that mantra that carried me through, and it's a mantra that I live by. And that mantra is every single day is a new beginning. So that no matter what happened yesterday, last week, last year, every day presents new opportunities to bloom in your career, to move forward. And I have lived by that mantra for as long as I can remember. So I live by it. Every day is a new beginning. Because if you only see negativity, that is what you will attract onto yourself. So that what you do not want to attract onto yourself, do not send that out into the atmosphere. So that if you get up and you have that gift of breath, it is a new beginning and the possibilities are endless.
I am going to steal that and I am going to post that relevant to this episode. Every day presents new opportunities to bloom in your career. All right, Dr. Erica, last question. In one sentence, what do you want midlife professionals to know?
I would want midlife professionals to know that it is possible for you to transition your career so that no matter how comfortable you may be feeling in your present portfolio, and I was very comfortable in my present portfolio, that it is possible to transition. Because let me also share with you something, Florence. I don't know if you have experienced it. There comes a time in your career where you begin to feel a sense of uneasiness.
Mm-hmm.
Uneasiness. And it says to you, listen, you need to move on. You need to sow seeds as you move on, positive seeds, positive vibrations. But there comes a time in your career after you've been in a particular portfolio for many years, you become a little uncomfortable and there's something inside of you that says to you, it's time to move on because you have the skills, you have the competencies, and you can use those skills and competencies in another space to enhance another group of persons. So that even though I have left a particular space, I am still in touch with persons that I mentored and that I coached, but I'm now doing the same thing in a different space, in a different environment. So it is possible. Do not think that it is impossible at all.
I really love that. So I hope that all our listeners keep that in mind, that sometimes you just outgrow the space. We have to transplant our careers. If you like knit our pot, hence the reason why we call this Cultivating Careers, the pot is just too small for you. Or maybe the soil is just not providing you with what you need to thrive. Thank you, Dr. Erica Prentice-Pierre, for cultivating this space with us and showing us what it looks like to grow a career that truly fits the season that you're in. Thank you for
Thank you
listening.
very much, Florence. It was my pleasure being here. And my hope is that what I would have shared this will, in fact, assist someone who may be a bit indecisive in terms of making that career change. I thank you.
So, listeners, let us root this episode into 3 to 5 lessons from today's conversation. My 3 top takeaways, I would say, test your sense of readiness by listing the skills, knowledge, and competencies that you would bring to your new space. Strive for continuous learning. Dr. Erica indicated that she often pursues short courses. And thirdly, no matter how comfortable you feel in your present portfolio, it is possible to transition. Your courageous next step for this week is to research the space you want to transition to. If you really want to stand out as the ideal candidate in an interview, you must know about the organization. And I will leave you with this Bloom Forward affirmation, shared by Dr. Erica Prentice-Pierre. Every day presents new opportunities to bloom in your career. Every day presents new opportunities to bloom in your career. Thank you for spending time with me. Remember, your career is a garden. Plant with purpose, prune with care, and if you want to grow, you have to cultivate it.